This weekend my mum came down to see me just for the day, and we went to the National Gallery and the National Portrait Gallery. When we were there, my mum bought me this. Now, for those of you who aren't complete geeks, you may not know what it is, but I think quite a lot of you will. But it's the Boleyn necklace that is inspired by one of the most famous portraits of Anne Boleyn. This started as a bit of a joke because when I was young I was completely obsessed with the Tudors and in particular with Anne Boleyn. But as soon as I put it on, I realised that this was pretty much everything I'd ever dreamed of since I was about 5. It took me straight back to one of the very first times, I think actually the first time I ever went to the National Portrait Gallery with my mum. I went for my birthday, which says a lot about me, and I had basically planned out all of the floors I wanted to go to, which portraits I wanted to see, and I was a woman on a mission basically. I think I was about 11, I'm not quite sure, probably a bit younger actually. But I was heading straight for the Tudors. Ever since I'd been a little girl, I'd been completely obsessed by the history of Henry VIII, his 6 wives and Elizabeth I. Walking around with my mum, and we were talking about this, how she was saying, you know, so much of her life with me growing up was really centred around my interests, in a good way though. Like, she always wanted to take me to places that I had read about in books, or, you know, museums, or you know, the galleries, or I went to Hever Castle, and I remember going to the Tower of London and seeing where Anne Boleyn was executed, and so morbid. Makes sense now that I have an interest in true crime. But she was always the best facilitator for my passions and my interests, and you know, I am so grateful and thankful for that now, because that was what made me who I am, because I had the freedom to really become who I am. Walking around wearing this necklace, I was overwhelmed by the excitement that I remember feeling as a kid. I was always an obsessive kid, to the extent that I had, you know, clippings of the 6 Wives of Henry VIII, every portrait all over my room, like blue tacked onto my door, everywhere. I was a kid who wanted you know, the tape that they have during the Second World War on their windows, obviously to stop the glass breaking during the Blitz. I wanted those on my windows so badly. I wanted my room to be like a brown, or kind of like an older colour, because I wanted my room to look like a Victorian bedroom, and I wanted a Victorian style rug because I was obsessed with the Black Country Museum. You know, I wanted an Anderson shelter in my back garden, and even though in reality they are like not very nice, obviously, I was still obsessed with having one. And I know now that if I had an opportunity to have a garden and to build one, I would be like, that would be my holiday for the year basically. And when I was thinking about that little girl who was obsessed and geeky and passionate, I kind of felt a little bit sad. But not sad, because I am still that little girl. But being a child, I think, has a certain element of not being self-conscious. And then when you become a teenager, maybe you're more interested in not looking too geeky, if you know what I mean. And even though YouTube for me was my platform to really be, you know, geeky. And it's one reason I'm grateful for YouTube, because YouTube is a platform which champions the geek, right? Like, you know, you come to watch videos on certain subjects, or to someone talk about what they're really passionate about. And for me, at the heart of being geek is passion. And I know that geekiness, or being a geek, is like a thing which is associated with lots of different stuff, like maybe more kind of like Ben's a geek, you know, because he plays D&D and he does Magic the Gathering and maybe more traditional geek subjects, but I've always applied it to the way I felt about myself in terms of history and literature. As I've gotten older, I've slightly suppressed my geekiness. Not a lot. I'm pretty sure that anybody who knows me knows I'm massively obsessive about certain subjects and topics. So, you know, Virginia Woolf, the Tudors, the Second World War and, you know, probably a lot of different subjects. They do tend to change, like they are the main ones. But I realised for a while I'd kind of suppressed my geekiness in the way that even at university, like I was studying literature because I loved it and it was my passion, is my passion in life. But as I mentioned in a different video on not reading, because when you're studying and when you get a job and when you're looking for work and all of that stuff, if you're doing stuff which isn't related to what you're studying or, you know, working on, you can feel like it's like a waste of time or you're not being productive enough. And sometimes geekiness can feel really self-indulgent because it's something just for you to a certain extent. I want to reread my David Starkey, my Alison Weir. I want to go back to a subject I'm passionate about because I have time and because I'm self-confident to know that being passionate is actually one of the best qualities you can have. You know that moment when someone is talking about something that they love and it almost, like they're slightly embarrassed, you know, there might be a bit of a blush there, you can tell in their eyes that they're excited. It's like seeing someone who is in love with something. Right now I'm reclaiming what I love, and not because I've been told not to love it. As a part of this video, I want to know what you are geeky about. What are the stuff that you can't stop thinking about? What are the things that inspired you as a child? What are things that you found later in life that now you just couldn't imagine your life, you know, without? But I want to know what you're geeky about. So, my name is Claire and I am geeky about the Tudors, in particular Six Wives. Really loving Catherine of Aragon at the moment, always obsessed with Anne Boleyn. Want to know more about Jane Seymour. I want to reread all my big chunky history books. I'm obsessed with the Home Front, the Second World War, the Blitz in particular, the French Resistance, the SOE. What else am I obsessed with? There must be so much. Virginia Woolf, 20th century female writers, 18th century novels, 19th century novels. I'm obsessed with the Victorian era. How could I forget that? Left-wing politics, in particularly socialism, especially in the 19th century. Maps, I'm a massive map obsessive. We have like probably 6, 7, 8, 9 maps just in our living room, on the walls, on our cushions. Ben has said to me that we're getting to the point that we have too many maps, but I think he's wrong because I've seen another pillow that I want, which is a really cool map of Paris, and I will order it. He just won't know. I hope you enjoyed me talking about geekiness, because I am about to sit down and just read about Catherine of Aragon and enjoy every moment. If you would like to support my passion project, this YouTube channel and my Instagram and basically like my online content creation, I have a coffee account which is an online tip jar, and you can just tip. Thank you for watching and I'll see you again soon.